Imagine a kingdom so rich, so advanced, that even the mighty Egyptians feared its power. A land where golden treasures were buried alongside pyramids taller than those of Giza, where iron and trade flowed through the veins of its cities, and where rulers commanded armies that could rival the most legendary empires of the ancient world. Yet, today, Nubia is largely forgotten, hidden beneath the sands and obscured by history. What secrets lie buried in this kingdom of gold, power, and mystery? And why has the world almost erased its legacy? Tonight, we uncover the story of Africa's most powerful forgotten kingdom, Nubia. Nestled along the banks of the Nile, stretching from modern-day Sudan into southern Egypt, Nubia was once a land of immense wealth and extraordinary civilization. Its people mastered the art of war, trade, and architecture long before many of their neighbors rose to prominence. Nubia's history is one of triumph and tragedy, a tale of conquest, assimilation, and survival in the shadow of the Egyptian pharaohs. Yet despite its grandeur, Nubia's story has been reduced to footnotes in history books, overshadowed by the glories of its northern neighbor. Tonight, we peel back the layers of time, journeying into the deserts and river valleys, to uncover the truth behind a kingdom that shaped the course of African history in ways few ever imagined. Before we dive deeper into the untold legacy of Nubia, make sure to subscribe to History Vault and hit the bell icon. Trust us, you won't want to miss the astonishing discoveries we're about to reveal. Long before the pyramids of Giza rose into the Egyptian sky, long before the pharaohs etched their names into history, there was another kingdom along the Nile, a kingdom of gold, iron, and relentless ambition. This was Nubia. Known to the Egyptians as Kush, Nubia was far more than a remote stretch of desert and river. It was a cradle of civilization, a land where human ingenuity transformed harsh landscapes into thriving cities and powerful states. Its story is one of resilience, innovation, and a hunger for power that rivaled even the most celebrated empires of the ancient world. The geography of Nubia shaped its destiny. Stretching along the Nile, from modern-day southern Egypt deep into Sudan, its lands were divided by deserts, cataracts, and river valleys. The Nile, often called the lifeblood of civilizations, provided more than water. It was a highway for trade, communication, and military strategy. Nubia's fertile banks became the heart of agriculture, supporting large populations and fueling the growth of monumental cities. But it was not just the Nile that made Nubia powerful. The kingdom sat atop some of the richest gold mines in the ancient world. Gold flowed from Nubian mountains, fueling trade and generating wealth that would make other nations envy its prosperity. Trade was the lifeblood of Nubia. Caravan routes extended far into Africa's interior, connecting distant regions rich in ivory, ebony, exotic animals, and rare minerals. Traders moved along these routes with guarded caravans, exchanging their goods for Egyptian linen, Mediterranean artifacts, and luxury items from across the known world. Nubia became a crossroads, a place where cultures intersected, and where wealth was concentrated in cities that rivaled the largest urban centers of their time. Every artifact, every decorative object, every weapon and ornament tells a story of commerce, diplomacy, and influence reaching far beyond the borders of Nubia. But Nubia's power was not only economic, it was military. Nubians were renowned warriors, feared by Egyptians and respected across Africa. Archery was a hallmark of Nubian combat, with their longbows delivering deadly accuracy from afar. Iron smelting and metalworking gave them an advantage over enemies, as weapons crafted from Nubian iron were stronger and more reliable than many of their contemporaries. Archaeological evidence shows fortified cities, weapons caches, and armories designed not only to protect but to assert dominance. Nubian armies were not merely defensive, they were strategic, mobile, and highly trained, capable of both defending their lands and projecting power into neighboring territories. The rise of Nubian cities further cemented the kingdom's prominence. Kerma, often described as a city of the horned falcon, was the earliest known capital and a jewel of ancient Nubia. Its urban planning demonstrates sophistication. Residential areas, religious temples, ceremonial centers, and massive burial grounds hint a society with complex social structures and hierarchical organization. The royal cemetery at Kerma is among the most striking archaeological sites, filled with tumuli, large mounds of earth and stone covering the tombs of kings and queens. Within these tombs, archaeologists have uncovered treasures of gold, pottery, and ornate jewelry, each piece reflecting both wealth and an advanced sense of artistry. Napeta, the later capital, emerged as a religious and political center, where kings and queens were not only rulers but spiritual leaders. Here, Nubia's monarchs constructed temples and monuments that rivaled the grandeur of Egyptian architecture. These structures were more than symbols. They were statements of authority, power, and permanence. Each temple and monument signaled to the world that Nubia was a kingdom capable of commanding respect, wealth, and influence across vast distances. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Nubia's rise was the role of its leaders, especially the Kandakes, the queen mothers and warrior queens who shaped the political and military trajectory of the kingdom. Unlike many contemporary societies, Nubian women could wield power directly, leading armies into battle and negotiating treaties. Their presence on the political stage ensured that Nubia was not just a collection of cities, but a dynamic and resilient state capable of adapting to external threats while cultivating internal stability. Despite these successes, Nubia's power was constantly tested by its neighbors, particularly Egypt. Pharaohs often sought Nubia's gold, sending armies to claim its riches. Yet Nubia did not merely submit. It resisted, negotiated, and sometimes retaliated. This push and pull with Egypt forged a civilization that was as politically savvy as it was militarily capable, able to navigate the pressures of a powerful neighbor while asserting its own identity. By the height of its early power, Nubia was a civilization unmatched in Africa. Its cities thrived, its markets prospered, its armies commanded respect, and its leaders forged a legacy that would echo through centuries. But the rise of Nubia was just the beginning. Beneath the sands and river valleys lay stories of conquest, diplomacy, and culture that would intertwine with Egypt, shape the continent, and ultimately challenge everything historians thought they knew about ancient African kingdoms. Nubia was more than gold and iron. It was strategy, culture, and vision. Its rise tells a story of human ingenuity and determination, of a kingdom that refused to be overshadowed and sought to carve its mark into history. And as we move deeper into its relationship with Egypt, we begin to see how Nubia's influence extended far beyond its borders, leaving a legacy that continues to captivate and mystify the world today. No story of Nubia is complete without the shadow of Egypt. For centuries, these two great civilizations existed side by side along the Nile, a relationship defined by trade, rivalry, conquest, and cultural exchange. From the earliest periods, Egypt recognized Nubia as a land of wealth and strategic importance. Yet Nubia never simply bowed to its northern neighbor. This was a kingdom that demanded respect, a people who knew the value of their resources, their armies, and their cities. Egyptian records often depict Nubia as both a threat and an opportunity. Pharaohs launched military campaigns to seize gold, secure trade routes, and expand their influence. But Nubia, with its skilled archers, iron weapons, and fortified cities, was far from an easy target. The Egyptians called Nubia Tarseti, the land of the bow, a tribute to the deadly accuracy of Nubian archers who could strike fear into even the most disciplined Egyptian soldiers. For every invasion, Nubia resisted, retreated strategically, and sometimes launched counteroffensives that left Egypt shaken. This push and pull eventually evolved into something far more complex than simple warfare. Nubia absorbed Egyptian cultural elements, hieroglyphics, religious practices, and architectural techniques, but did so selectively. The adoption of these influences was a calculated display of power. Nubia did not merely imitate, it adapted, transforming these borrowed elements into uniquely Nubian expressions of identity and authority. Temples were built in Egyptian style, yet adorned with distinctly Nubian motifs. Royal tombs reflected Egyptian traditions of burial and afterlife, but the art and symbolism celebrated Nubian rulers and their accomplishments. The pinnacle of Nubian-Egyptian interaction came in the 8th century BCE when Nubia, long under Egyptian influence and sometimes threat, reversed the power dynamic entirely. The kings of Kush launched a campaign that culminated in the conquest of Egypt, establishing the 25th dynasty. This was a moment that stunned the ancient world. Nubian rulers now sat upon the Egyptian throne, ruling from Thebes and commanding one of history's most storied civilizations. The pharaohs of Kush were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They were restorers of Egyptian culture, patrons of the arts, and defenders of the sacred traditions of the Nile. Yet they also left their own mark, fusing Nubian military prowess and political vision with Egyptian grandeur. Among the most renowned of these rulers was Taharqa, whose reign marked a period of architectural innovation and military strength. Under his leadership, temples were expanded, cities flourished, and Nubia's influence stretched from the heart of the Nile Valley into neighboring territories. Archaeologists have uncovered temples at Kawa and Karnak that testify to the sophistication and ambition of Nubian pharaohs. These structures, adorned with intricate reliefs and monumental statues, celebrate Nubian rulers as powerful sovereigns, blending Egyptian iconography with Nubian symbolism in ways that still fascinate historians today. But Nubia's influence was not limited to kings and temples. The society itself was a complex interplay of tradition, innovation, and adaptation. Trade continued to thrive under Nubian rule, connecting Egypt with distant regions of Africa. Caravans carried gold, ivory, and exotic animals, while Meroe, a later capital of Nubia, became a hub of iron production, sending weapons and tools across the continent. Nubia's economic strength was inseparable from its political and military ambitions. Wealth-funded armies, construction projects, and diplomatic endeavors, allowing the kingdom to maintain its autonomy while shaping the course of Egyptian history. Cultural exchange flowed in both directions. Nubians absorbed Egyptian religious practices, but also enriched them with their own traditions. Deities were worshipped across both lands. Yet in Nubia, gods such as Apidamak, the lion-headed warrior deity, became central figures of devotion. Artifacts reveal depictions of Nubian soldiers, kings, and queens alongside Egyptian gods, a visual testament to a hybrid culture that blended two civilizations without erasing the identity of either. Yet this period of prosperity and dominance was not without challenges. Egypt eventually regained independence, and outside empires, including Assyria and later Rome, threatened Nubia's borders. Internal dynastic disputes occasionally fractured the kingdom, forcing leaders to defend their cities and resources. Each challenge tested Nubia's resilience, shaping a society capable of withstanding pressures from both within and without. These struggles underscore a remarkable truth. Nubia was not merely a subordinate neighbor to Egypt. It was a civilization capable of conquest, adaptation, and enduring influence. Even after Nubian rule in Egypt ended, the legacy of the 25th dynasty endured. Temples, pyramids, and artifacts remained as silent witnesses to a time when Nubia commanded power beyond its traditional borders. Nubian influence lingered in art, architecture, and religious practice, leaving a cultural imprint that historians are only beginning to fully appreciate. The story of Nubia and Egypt is not one of simple domination. It is a narrative of mutual influence, strategic mastery, and cultural synthesis that reshaped the ancient world. Through these centuries, Nubia demonstrated a unique capacity to navigate the complexities of diplomacy, war, and culture. Its rulers were strategic visionaries, its cities centers of trade and innovation, and its armies formidable enough to conquer one of history's most legendary civilizations. The relationship with Egypt reveals the heart of Nubia's power, not merely wealth or land, but the ability to adapt, assert authority, and leave an indelible mark on history. As we move forward into Nubia's ultimate legacy, the story begins to shift from conquest to preservation, a tale of a kingdom whose grandeur would eventually fade from memory, yet whose influence would echo for centuries across Africa and beyond. Even the mightiest kingdoms eventually faced the relentless passage of time. Nubia, once a flourishing center of power, wealth, and culture, was no exception. Its pyramids, temples, and cities that had once gleamed along the Nile slowly slipped into obscurity, buried beneath sand and history alike. Yet to call Nubia forgotten is a grave understatement. Its story may not dominate textbooks, but its legacy resonates profoundly, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those willing to uncover it. The decline of Nubia was neither abrupt nor simple. A combination of internal strife, shifting trade routes, and external pressures gradually eroded its dominance. The rise of Assyria and later Rome challenged Nubia's political autonomy, forcing kings and queens to navigate increasingly precarious alliances. Yet even as power waned, Nubia continued to innovate and preserve its culture. The kingdom moved its capital from Napata to Meroe, further south, adapting to changing circumstances while maintaining the core of its civilization. Meroe, often referred to as the Island of Gold, became a beacon of ingenuity, particularly in iron production. Its workshops churned out weapons, tools, and intricate artifacts that were exported far beyond Africa, demonstrating that Nubia remained a hub of economic and technological prowess even in its later years. Meroe's pyramids, though smaller than their Egyptian counterparts, were uniquely Nubian in design. These sharply pointed structures served as tombs for kings and queens, reflecting a continued reverence for lineage and spiritual tradition. Unlike Egypt, where pyramids became symbols of state power and spectacle, Nubian pyramids were intimate markers of royal authority and cultural identity. Archaeologists have discovered hundreds of these pyramids, often clustered together in necropolises, each mound whispering tales of rulers who dared to leave an enduring mark on the world despite mounting pressures from neighboring powers. Perhaps one of Nubia's most remarkable legacies lies in its queens, the Candaces. These women wielded immense authority, leading armies into battle, negotiating with foreign powers, and governing the kingdom with unparalleled influence. Figures like Eminerenas, who famously resisted Roman forces, highlight a society where female leadership was not only accepted but celebrated. Through these powerful women, Nubia demonstrated a model of governance that was sophisticated, strategic, and uniquely African, leaving a legacy of leadership that challenges contemporary assumptions about ancient civilizations. Cultural resilience was another cornerstone of Nubia's enduring influence. Even as Egypt, Assyria, and Rome left their marks on the region, Nubians maintained their identity. The Meroitic script, one of Africa's earliest written languages, emerged during this period, enabling the kingdom to record its history, trade agreements, and religious practices. Though partially undeciphered, this script is a testament to Nubia's intellectual achievements, reflecting a society capable of complex administration and deep cultural expression. Artifacts, from intricately decorated pottery to statues and jewelry, reveal a civilization that valued aesthetics, symbolism, and spiritual connection, creating works that continue to astonish modern scholars. Trade, too, remained central to Nubia's survival and legacy. Caravans carried Nubian gold, iron, and exotic goods across the continent and beyond, linking Africa's interior to the Red Sea and Mediterranean. Ports and marketplaces thrived, ensuring that Nubia remained connected to global networks even as political power shifted. This economic integration helped preserve cultural continuity, allowing Nubian influence to ripple outward, far beyond the immediate reach of its rulers. Yet perhaps the most haunting aspect of Nubia's legacy is the way it challenges modern perceptions of African history. For centuries, Western narratives minimized or ignored Nubia's achievements, portraying Africa as a continent devoid of advanced civilizations. Archaeological discoveries in recent decades have shattered these misconceptions. Excavations at Kerma, Napata, and Meroe reveal sophisticated civilization capable of monumental architecture, intricate craftsmanship, and strategic statecraft. Nubia's story reminds the world that Africa was home to powerful, dynamic societies long before the arrival of Europeans, and that the continent's history is rich, complex, and deserving of recognition. Even today, as researchers continue to unearth artifacts, tombs, and inscriptions, Nubia's voice emerges from the sands, persistent and undeniable. Its pyramids, though weathered, continue to pierce the desert skyline. Its ironworks, though silent, tell of a society that mastered technology. Its art, though centuries old, communicates the ideals, values, and identity of a people who refuse to be forgotten. Nubia was not simply a kingdom that rose and fell. It was a civilization that endured, adapted, and influenced the course of African and world history in ways that are only now being fully understood. In many ways, Nubia's greatest legacy is its reminder of human resilience. Despite invasions, climate challenges, and the shifting tides of empires, Nubians carved a space for themselves in history that was uniquely their own. They were traders, warriors, architects, and leaders who demanded respect, not through mere survival, but through innovation, courage, and vision. They remind us that true power is not always measured by territory or armies alone, but by the ability to leave a mark that echoes across millennia. As the sun sets over the Nile's winding banks and the desert stretches beyond the horizon, Nubia's pyramids cast their long shadows over a land that still whispers the secrets of its past. Forgotten by many, yet immortal in essence, Nubia stands as a testament to human ambition, creativity, and enduring legacy. Its story, buried beneath centuries of sand, continues to inspire, challenge, and captivate, reminding us that even the most obscure civilizations can leave an unforgettable mark on history. And as we step away from Nubia's golden sands, one question lingers in shadows. What other lost kingdoms of Africa remain hidden? Their stories waiting to reshape everything we thought we knew about the ancient world?